Hey guys, welcome back. It is another episode in our interactive junk journal magic. And making interactive elements and sort of fun bits and pieces for our journals. Alright, so we've got our big source book here. Where are we going today? Well, do you know what? I don't even quite know what to call this. A window flip? A turning window? I'm not sure. But here's my prototype, and this is what we're going to make. Okay. Now, as I say, that's my prototype. This is a fully decorated one with some adjustments and some learning from the first one. There we go. You will see we've got, on this one, we've got some little hidden journaling space on the back. I think you could use this for a number of things. You could use this for photos. You could use it for... you could even put little pockets on here. You could hide journaling space, or you could hide other photos on the back and tell a story as you flip it. Again, this can be free floating and tucked into a pocket with a little tab like I've put this one. Or we can glue the base down, which I think might be my preferred option for this one. And then you can pull like this. Now we can make it this way up or this way up. And I think when I make one with you today and show you how to do it, I will make one that's this orientation. But really, you don't need to decide that until you come to decorating, which is probably the last step when we do this. So without further ado, let's go see if we can make one. All right, you're going to need two things for this. You do need to make this, and this is what I learned when I made my prototype. You do need a reasonably sturdy piece of card. So I've gone for 230 GSM, and that seems to be sufficient. So you're going to need a base piece, and you're going to need a couple of smaller scraps of a contrasting piece for these panels. You could do it all the same. That's entirely up to you. I've chosen to do a contrast like this, and you will be able to see it a lot better. But there's no reason why you can't do all the same. Okay, so we're going to take our A4 or letter size piece, and we're going to cut it in half to make two A5 pieces, and then we're going to cut it in half again. So that's 21. So this needs to be 10.5. There we go. So basically you've got an A4 or letter size quartered. Now that's just the size I've chosen to do. I think it would fit into most journals. But I will show you how I worked the measurements out so that if you want to make it bigger or smaller, you can do. All right, so let's put one of these to the side, and we're going to need the other one. Now there is a little bit, oh, let's pick my glue up, sorry. There we go. There is a little bit of measuring today, and you know me, I hate that kind of thing, but let's give it a go. All right, so what we're going to need to do, we're going to make a border all the way around, which is going to be 1/2 inch. So I don't know whether you're going to be able to see my pencil marks on the camera, but believe you me, I am measuring 1/2 inch all the way around. So down that side, draw a line. Now you are going to want to rub these pencil marks off afterwards, so you know, don't do it too, you know, you need to be able to see them, but we are going to want to rub them off. There we go. So we've got a 1/2 inch border all the way around. Now, if you've got a cutting machine, like a Cricut or a Silhouette, and you like doing these, you could set up this template on your machine and save it, and that would probably save you quite a lot of time. So the next thing you need to do is to find the middle going this way. And you can measure it, or a very simple way of doing it as like this, and just put a little nick there at the top. So it's going to be there, and the same at the bottom. It's going to be there. Okay, so once you've got that halfway point, I'm going to draw a very faint line there. And then you want to measure 1/4 of an inch either side of it. I'm going to join those. There we go. And just so I don't get confused, I'm going to take that centre line out. All right, so now hopefully you can see that. If I turn that in the light, can you see that? What you've got is a border all the way around the outside and the middle strip. So that's all the dark green that you can see here. Actually, it might be easier to show you on this one. All the light blue that you see here, 1/2 inch, all the way around. And what we've got to do now is to get our craft knife and cut those middle panels out. Now I'm just going to bring in my other mat to do this. Okay, once you've got your aperture, you need your 2 pieces. They're going to form the windows or the flips. Okay, now I'm going to tell you how to measure these, as well as giving you the measurements if you're making this size, because these pieces need to be the same measurement this way. So if you're looking at the height, you need to be the same height that way, and then you need to measure your aperture and add 1/4 of an inch. So if I put it here, you will see that this is 1/4 of an inch bigger than my aperture. Okay, and I'm telling you that because if you make a different size base, you'll still be able to cut these to the right size. So same size this way, 1/4 of an inch bigger than your aperture, and you'll need 2 pieces. So if you're doing this size, you're going to be looking at 4 1/8 that way by 2 3/8 that way. Okay, now next thing to do is on both of these, you need to measure again. You need to measure 1/2 inch down each side. So on the short sides, you're measuring 1/2 inch. And on one long side, you're measuring 1/4 of an inch. So I'll hold that up and hopefully you can see. We've got 1/2 inch on the 2 short sides and 1/4 of an inch on this bottom side. Now, my scissors. The next thing you need to do is to take this bottom piece out. And it's actually easier if you just fold that little tab up, which you're going to need to do anyway. So we're going to cut this piece out completely. and you can discard that, you don't need it. Okay, so those bottom tabs are going to go up. Now this piece here, you're going to need to find the halfway point. So we've got 2 1/8 there, so we're going to go just 1 and a little bit. What's that, a 1/16? There we go, and give yourself a line across there at that halfway point. And again, I'm telling you that because if you do a different size, you'll still be able to work this out. And then you're going to cut down to that halfway point. And you're going to use that halfway mark and fold. Okay. So you've got your 2 little flaps there at the bottom, 2 little tabs, and you've got the bigger fold there. All right, we're going to do that on the same for the other piece as well. All right, as you will see, I've burnished all those folds well, and these longer ones, I find it helpful to bend them backwards and burnish them that way as well, because they're the ones going to be doing all the hard work. Right, at this stage, if you want to remove the pencil marks, you can do. It's not essential, but you know, if you want to make absolutely sure that they're not showing. There we go. All right, now bring your frame back in. On the back side of your frame, you're going to want to lay these pieces like this. So you're lining them up with the edges this way, and you're lining this middle bit up with the top of your aperture. Okay, now I don't very often use double-sided tape. I used to use it a lot when I was making cards, and actually this is a technique from my card making days. This was a great way of making the front of an attractive card for someone. So I actually find that double-sided tape is more effective. You can use glue, but I just find tape easier. Okay, so we're going to take one piece at a time, and we're going to put double-sided tape on those flaps that we've made. Now, if you've made your frame a different size, so if this is bigger than half an inch, then you will need to measure the same distance in when you're cutting these. Does that make sense? So I meant to say that to you when I was cutting them, sorry. So this piece is the same width, yeah? And what you do, you measure in from the sides the same distance as your frame. So if you've made an inch frame, if this measurement is an inch here, you will need to measure in an inch to get this correct. All right. Okay, so we're going to do all 4 of those flaps. So we're going to do these little tiddly fiddly ones down here. And I like to turn over and just double check. Yeah, like you can see there's some overhang there with the tape, so let's just get rid of that because we don't want it sticking where it shouldn't. All right, so we're going to take the tape off our biggest flaps. One of the reasons I dislike tape is getting the bits off. Oh, what's that stuck up? No, that's come off completely. See? It's my nemesis, is double-sided tape. And I see people using all these wonderful tools, and I've tried and it doesn't work for me. Anyway, right. So we're going to take our top one and we're going to that inside the aperture, line it up, and then we're going to stick those flaps onto that frame. Okay. And then what we should find is that that goes through there quite nicely. Let's do the other one and then I'll talk about what do we do if it doesn't quite work, because believe you me, it doesn't always work quite as smoothly as that one just did. Okay, so we've got these flaps stuck down, these ones are ready to go, and we're going to bring in the other half of our card. So this is exactly the same size as the piece you started with. I'm going to take all 4 of these off. Now, starting with these top ones, it's a little bit fiddly, but if you hold those, I'm going to line the top of the card up. I'm just going to stand up so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just pressing those 2 tabs down there. So if you look, those 2 tabs are stuck under there and there. And we're going to do the same with the next ones. So I've got those 4 tabs underneath my fingers there. Press them down well. Da, da, da. And that's it. Now, we talked to you about what happens if it doesn't go quite right, quite as smoothly as that. I've made a number of these over the years. Sometimes, however carefully you measure and however carefully you cut, you find you may need to just take the tiniest sliver off the end here or off the sides here to get it to work smoothly. Now, if you have to do that, don't panic. Just use your scissors and trim it down. The other thing to do is to have a look from above when you've got it like this, and you will see here that I do have a little bit coming out of the sides. The little bit of the grey is showing there at the sides. Now that's going to be less obvious if you've done it all in one colour, but all I'm going to do is to take my craft knife. I'm trying not to cut on this mat, I don't always remember. Take my craft knife and just trim it, because let's face it, nobody's going to notice that little bit gone, but they are going to notice if it's there. So it should only be millimetres, if anything. There we go. done. And in all honesty, guys, that's it. You're ready to decorate however you like. Now I can see a little bit of a pencil mark on there, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm making a kind of a gothic journal at the moment, so I'm going to decorate this one to go in my gothic journal. When you have a look at this, the other thing I have done is I've inked the edges of these cards, so you can do that before you put it in. You can also just about do it when they're in there. And the other thing I have done is added a little tab. So I'm going to go and get some bits and pieces to decorate this one, and then you can watch and I'll put it on a faster speed, just so that you know, you're not sitting here for hours watching me play with bits of paper. Okay everyone, there's 2 panels finished. Now just a couple of things to say about when you're decorating these panels. Unless it's something really soft like this tissue paper, you're going to want to make sure that all your decoration is contained on those panels so that it doesn't impede the movement of your piece. All right. What else was I going to say? I don't know. There you go. That's the important thing, I think. You know, you can decorate these to your own taste. You can see that you can go in either orientation. That was the other thing I was going to say. If you're going in an up and down orientation like this, remember that these panels are going to be the other way up from these. So the top of this one will be the bottom of this one. And I think that's one of the reasons I find it better to decorate the panels once they've been glued in, because That way I know that I've got it the right way round. And you can see that these little bits of tissue paper here are catching, and I may take those off. I'll see how that goes once it's actually in my journal. And this one you'll see I've just left mainly as journaling space on the back, and I can grab a white gel pen and journal on there. Alright, so there's our two, I don't know, what are we going to call them? Window flips? I'm not sure. I'll have to think of something before I put the video out, won't I? Alright, so a bit of a hark back to card making days today, but a useful adaptation, I think, and just a fun little insert into your journal, a little flip. As I say, you can have journaling space or indeed just some attractive photos or ephemera in there. And as you can see, adaptable to different themes. We've got more of a vintage theme here and more of a gothic theme here. Just one little note, this ephemera I've used on here, these little bits, they were from a free printable by Tracy Fox. And they were to do with cameras and photography. So have a look on Tracy's Ko-Fi page. I believe that's where they are. And these bits were in the same kit. So that's where those came from. A lot of the bits on here, actually, the picture and the wording, these came from Creep on June last year, 2025. So again, a challenge run by Tracy Fox, and you'll see in my playlists we've got this year's Creep on June going at the moment, but these were some bits left over from last year. All right, I hope that's been fun to watch. I will be back next week with another interactive journal flip. Until then, stay safe, stay well, ka kite anō.